Hi Alicia, thanks for joining. Hola. How's everybody doing out there? We'll get started in a couple minutes. Just waiting for more people to join. Hopefully the music is not too loud. You guys can hear me okay? Let me know. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Hi. Let's find some more relaxing music. What can you hear me now? Is that okay? Some kind of weird connection error. Seems like it's okay now, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Like I was saying, so I got inspired by this little these snapping turtles that I saw. So I kind of want to incorporate some of this into that creature, make him a little more believable, a little less from the frog to a little bit more of these turtles that are, you wouldn't want to mess with. Cool. Thanks for confirming, guys. But yeah, this is kind of some of the inspiration that I want to kind of take it towards. He's a skinny guy, but we'll add some more turtle features to him. Kind of these ridges, these hard ridges, beak. Kind of transition from a beak to like softer skin. That's kind of what I'm looking at. A few other ones that I was looking at that I thought were pretty cool were some of these guys. These guys look pretty cool because then it leaves a lot of room for us to be able to do a lot of cool textures and detail. But yeah, we'll also continue on our crab guy, which let's see, we have here somewhere. So he's getting close to getting done as well. We still kind of need to work on his leg and his main weapons or his hands. But he's getting close, and then we can start posing him. But for now, I figure it was a nice thing to maybe switch a little bit, half the stream to our little Kappa friend, and then switch over to the other one. But yeah, let's. There's been a lot of really cool Kappa characters people have done in the past. It's an interesting kind of character. Like this is one representation of him or of them. One thing that's kind of tricky and kind of weird is that they need to have a bowl, kind of like a bowl in their skull to have water. So it kind of makes it look kind of goofy, but we'll see what we can do. Not sure we can make them look cool. There's a few other ones that I found that I thought were interesting, a little bit maybe more duck-like. But you know, it's cool to see this stuff. But I'm obviously not gonna copy any of this. It's just more for like, oh, this is what people have done. Maybe having some scales or some kind of barnacle type of stuff would be cool. So yeah, I think that's where we're gonna go towards. Just kind of wanted to let you guys know, so so you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, let's kind of get started. Let me just make my image a little bigger. So a lot of these snapping turtles seem to have really small eyes. So I think that's what we're going to modify first, because his eyes were earlier they were pretty big. So I'm kind of just playing around with making them smaller and making them kind of maybe stick out a little more. Then play with the lids and, you know, kind of play with the structure overall. Hey, how's it going, Walter? So let's play around with that first and see what we can do. Obviously, some turtles have, let's see, let's use our clay tubes to kind of destroy some of this stuff, you know. You know, a lot of the turtles kind of have this ridge that kind of continues on. Well, of course, we'll break it up a little bit, but kind of wanted to start with that and see where it goes, and then it also kind of goes back. Give them a big brow type of deal. You know, we'll smooth a lot of this stuff out eventually. Just right now, I'm trying to figure out the also mouth open. That's a big important one. I kind of wanted to make sure his mouth was open, because that kind of makes him even creepier if his mouth is always kind of open and like you don't know if he's gonna want to bite you or what. You guys agree? So this guy was just blocked out of simple objects, as you can see, you know, basic anatomy, nothing crazy. So, you know, we'll fuse all that stuff together later to kind of see how it goes. What do I be doing? I'm going to be kind of working on this little Kappa guy, making him look more evil and a little more, I guess, turtle-like. And then we'll switch over to our crab friend. If that makes any sense. So let's see, where can we start dividing this? One thing they always have, like a lot of these turtles have, is a bit of a membrane. It kind of connects the top and bottom. So I want to make sure it kind of maintains some of that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Yes, he wants to eat other turtles. He wants to eat anything he can get his hands on. One thing I wanted to do is make them very skinny, because ideally what I want to do with these guys is have them all kind of fight for something, and they're all kind of piling up into a point where there's like one that has the thing they want to eat. So I want to do maybe a good set of 6 or 8. So we'll see. Yeah, predator with dreadlocks. Well, they seem to have some kind of hair, so I kind of wanted to. I just did a quick sculpt on that, but I'm not sure if it's going to be like super stringy or maybe more towards the back. You know, this was just more of a block out. So I want to see what we can do to make him feel more turtle-like, because I feel like that would give him a little bit more of an edge to make him creepier. You know, with the little harder beak and that type of stuff. You know, this guy's always into to have some kind of ridge, kind of connecting all the way, like up to the nose. So like our nose is a little further back. Oh, I like this music. It's pretty cool. No, so he has his beak section on both sides, so we need to make sure it looks nice and sharp. Hope everybody's doing good, staying safe. We're just gonna do some gums for him real quick. Nothing too crazy. Just to see what we can do to block out those teeth as well, so we start seeing a little more menace to him. So even though he has his beak, he has teeth too. Why not? It's a monster. Yeah, I haven't been able to work on my crab guy too much. I've been busy working a lot, so there's not a lot of updates on that guy, but we can definitely update him today. Let's see, let's put some teeth in there. Yeah, as you can see, I started everything with a sphere, because why not? It's simple, it's a good shape. See any questions so far? Let's see. Yeah, reminds me a little bit of a predator. Yeah, like a funny kid that just dressed up like a predator, right? Hey, how's it going, Falls? Yeah, I try to keep it simple so you guys can see kind of what I'm doing, you know, because it could become very daunting when you're doing a whole character, right? And that's the last thing I want to do. I kind of just want to have fun with this, you know. This is not the final character, but we're sketching, we're trying to get the ideas out, we're trying to see what we can do with this. So that's the whole point, you know, so that way you guys can follow along, do your own character, or do a kappa of your own. So the reason why we can't have so many different kappa characters. Especially if there's different representations of him, you know, that's cool. So we'll just put a few teeth in there to see how creepy he starts to look, and then we'll move on to the rest of the face. So the main thing is to block as much as you can see, so that there is no guessing work of to like what we're going to do next and why we're doing this. That's the main workflow for this, you know. Like, we have his body blocked out. I want to adjust his body to be a little more lanky, maybe a little more like, maybe he holds on to a lot of things, so his arms need to be longer and his chest needs to be a little more buff, but the rest is kind of the, you know, like he hasn't been eating much. Let's see. You get those from my Gumroad. They're free, so you could just download it there. Let me just duplicate. I'll post some links right now. I know some of you guys are new or haven't joined before. You know, so let's flip some of these guys upside down. So we're just kind of recycling the teeth. You see, we don't have to do a whole bunch of craziness. especially when we're in this stage where we're just designing. That's the main thing. Designing and having the final product are kind of different things. Sometimes people don't understand that part, where here we're just exploring ideas and seeing where they go. Sometimes they look great, sometimes they don't. But we'll see. That's the whole fun of this, right? So keeping it super simple. See some stuff here. Let's post some links real quick, so that way you guys have those links. Also, if you guys want to follow me, like what I'm doing, feel free to follow me on here. I'll post that link right now. This is where I post a whole bunch of stuff, different projects I've been working on, some stuff in VR. Kind of blocking this things out in an hour. In other projects, 3D printing projects, and all kinds of different things. So feel free to follow me there. Or also, if you like what we're doing here with Pixologic, feel free to like and subscribe. I also have a YouTube channel of myself, so you guys want to follow me there. Here's my Instagram link, and here's my YouTube, in case you guys want to follow me. What else? And also my website, if you guys want to see kind of some of the projects that I have worked on in the past. A lot of films and commercials and all kinds of other things. So I'll post that as well if you guys want to check that out. And let me post the Gumroad link too. That way you guys can download the UI. And it comes with most of the shaders. There's like 2 or 3 shaders that it doesn't come with. I think it's these last ones at the end. Those were given to me by another artist, and the other one was purchased on ArtStation. So if you guys want those, you guys have to go get those. They're only like $1 or something like that. So it's good. Oh, it's the first time. Thanks for joining, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I've been working on visual effects for about 20 years now. Kind of working on different stages, from just a regular modeler, generalist, to being a supervisor, and just working on tons of, I guess, other things like films and whatnot. What is that? Oh, I was gonna say, I don't know where that piece is coming from, but I see where it's at. It's another piece of geometry I had. So even sometimes with this, I tend to block out other shapes to see how they read before I decide to fuse them together. So that's something you guys might want to think about considering before committing. And then at the end, we can, either tone this down, tone it up, or get rid of it. Sometimes it's a fast, like this guy. But there's I work different ways, so this is not just one way I work. It's just one of my fun ways to work, where it keeps it kind of flexible for me to try different things and push things around. Let's see, any other questions? Sorry, I'm just trying to read some of this stuff. It's just my windows are taking up all this space. Let's see. Yeah, so I use Dynamesh, and depending on the scale you're working on, I try to keep it pretty low. But obviously, like in this head, there's a little more detail, so I just put it up to 500. But I usually start with the 128 or 256, and that usually works pretty well. I tend to stay there for a long time. As you can see, like the rest of this stuff is super blocky. Like it might look really dense, but it's not. It's like really choppy. But we'll refine it as we're going, kind of like what we're doing now, If that makes sense. Hopefully that helps you. How did I get started in my career? That's a long story, but I'll give you a quick one. I started as a generalist, and then from there, just after many years of experience, I was able to kind of move more into characters. While I was working, I decided to kind of work on the side at home when I would come home, just work on more of my character stuff, and then develop those skills since I didn't have them in the beginning. And from there, just keeps evolving. Every year, you just gain more and more skills. Yeah, 552. I just scrubbed it. Usually it's like 512. I try to stick to it, but I just scrubbed through this stuff. Yeah, right now I'm using the pen. I'm using a Cintiq, and that helps a lot. But I usually, for my day job and everything else I've done in films and stuff, I usually don't use a Cintiq. I use just a regular tablet. So sometimes I find it easier to just kind of tweak volumes like this, you know, and then just kind of do a little bit of inflate to kind of get the proportions that I want, you know. And then I use like the knife tool or dam standard and kind of cut those in so they kind of disappear. And then from there, kind of, you know, go in here and kind of tweak the other stuff that's underneath it, and then fuse it at the end all together. Especially since all this stuff is rough right now, like I want to give him a little kind of a fatter brow in here without disturbing the other brow that I'm still working on. You know, so that makes him look like he's more evil. One thing I like using too is the move topological, because see, now I'm really just affecting the parts that I really want, because I'm only affecting based on topology. Wrap that lid around him. But yeah, let's continue on with this stuff to give him a little bit more of a. He used to have a bit of a cheekbone, but I need to kind of push this back to be able to get up. So we have that webbing here that I was talking about, right? So that's what this is. And then we need to have some kind of place for all this fat to go to. So here we can either use clay and just kind of bulldoze through all that and just destroy all that stuff that I've done in the past or in the early stages. Kind of continue that ridge on, you see? And sometimes it feels kind of destructive, but overall it's okay, you know? And give this guy a little more volume. It's like all this stuff, every time he moved back, like all that stuff has to build up somewhere, right? Let's see. Awesome. Yeah, any questions you guys have, feel free. Hey, how's it going, Juan? Sí, sí hablo español también. Yeah, I speak Spanish if you guys have some questions in Spanish. But try to post them in English so I could reply in Spanish. Yeah, the sleepy eyelids make him look kind of like more dangerous. Like you don't really know if he's gonna attack you now, if he's pretending, right? It gets more to the character. Yeah, definitely. Hey, Panos. So when I'm creating the concept, usually if I'm doing something in Maya, I would if I was doing something for production, I would have the scale set in Maya, like do a quick sphere or something that I know this is the size of the head it should be, and import that in and work in that scale. But if I'm just kind of doing what I'm doing now, I tend to just kind of work on whatever scale and then at the end kind of scale everything up. But if you have a problem where like the brush won't get any smaller or won't get any bigger, one thing I added up here is dynamic brush size, and I changed that to 1 or 0.01, and that helps me getting it deeper. And that, you know, sometimes I think by default it will just clip out and won't get any smaller. Like if I were to change this to let's say 50, and I'm trying to get to see, it won't get, no matter what I do, it's already set at 1, it won't get any smaller, right? Like my brush, see my brush circle, no matter what I'm doing, I could make it bigger, but I can't make it smaller. So if I go to 1, now I could go, that's as small as it's gonna get, which is pretty nice for this stuff, right? But if you're having that issue, you could put 0.1 and it will get even smaller and adjust to your scale. It depends. I could do my block-ins, like if it's something super simple that I know I need to stick to the scale, I'll probably do like a sphere, like I was saying, something real simple, or start with a base measure, have that as my template to like place in here and then adjust from there, you know? But let's continue on with this guy. So let's give him more of let's continue with our turtle reference. So let's make that beak stand out a little more. See, now that it's too small, it becomes, every time I click on the brackets, it just takes longer for it to get to the point where I need it to. There we go. That's a little more turtle-like, and maybe bring this up a little bit. You know, so I'm kind of looking at this silhouette. Oh, let me bring this window down for you guys. You guys can see my reference. I'm kind of looking at the plane that he has here, you know, and trying to figure that out, like that, the balance. Because I'm probably going to give him a little waddle as well. Even though he's skinny, he'll probably have like an old man waddle. That's kind of what I'm going with. What do you guys think? Pretty cool or not to your liking? Let's see. Any tips for muscle anatomy? You just got to practice. You just got to make them, and then the next one will be better. The next one will be better. It'll just get better throughout time. I think that's the main thing. I used to struggle a lot with anatomy. I still do. You know, that's never. I don't think that's ever going to change. But the more you know about insertions and origins and all that stuff, that kind of helps to kind of start, you know, like where things connect, where they disconnect, where they should be connected to, like in the skeleton, and then from there you can make better assumptions. Oh yeah, you can use reality capture. I use scans all the time, you know, that for sure. That's something you can do. Well, I was born in the States, so my parents are Mexican, so I speak Spanish by default, but you know, I speak both. Yeah, snapping turtle, right? Like we need to make them feel like I don't want to mess with this guy. Like I see him from a distance, I'm just gonna stay away. Kind of like when you see a crocodile or alligator. Yeah, I know. It could cut through all your fingers, like no problem, or all your bones. So that's one thing that's kind of crazy. So one thing I see about this turtle is that there's a bit of a bulge happening in the beak. So we're gonna add that a little bit. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit, and then just add that just a little bit, just to, so when we see the surface, you see how it kind of breaks up a bit. It looks like it continues up. So I want to make a clear kind of border around this. So let's see. His nose is further back. Mine is further back. The real snapping turtle is further forward, but we're going to kind of cut it around that. Somewhere in that range. And then from here, this is kind of a little made up, you know. Kind of wrinkles, and then everything just kind of wrinkles over, you know, it kind of comes to the bottom. So we're just sketching all this stuff in. This is all like softer material, I guess, you know, like but we also need to make sure that's very clear and also very different, right? You don't want every wrinkle to be exactly the same. You want some of these to be larger wrinkles, so we'll start spreading some of this stuff out. You know, and then a little bit of bulge, and then we'll rebuild. Same thing with this brow stuff, right? We kind of give them a little bit of a human brow. Obviously, he's not a happy guy, you know, and then he has probably tons of wrinkles here, and then a little bit of mimicking human anatomy. You know, this could be like a big surface that's nice and like rigid, and then you have the softer part inside. That's kind of what I'm thinking about this for, you know. So you start getting these wrinkles in here. So I guess in this case, we can go a little higher. Let's go up to 600, see if that gives us a little bit more resolution to play with. Yeah, it's not too terrible. It's a little nicer, right? And then we can have some of this stuff start. Let's get that sharpness of the beak. And that's a little too much. I don't kind of like the way that's looking. Switch over to our damn standard. Yeah, that's nicer right there. Right, and then these guys, also have to look at it from all views. Maybe he's becoming a little too wide. Push those eyelids a little bit in, the eyes. Let's see, let's work on this top part. He also has these weird ears, kind of, thought it was interesting, kind of a mixture, you know, of kind of human, where turtles don't really have ears that way. They have more like a little hole. So we want to mess with those guys as well. So maybe make those guys a little bit out and start working on the integration of those guys without the hair. The hair, we don't know if we're going to keep it, so we can play around with it. Let's just find out which ones are hair. And let's see. Maybe without the hair he looks more creepy, so we'll see. Let's see what other questions you got. It's good. Thanks for asking all the questions, guys. Yeah, you really got to practice this every day so it gets easier. Sí, pues es mi idioma nativo, pero pues crecí hablando español también con mis parientes. No, this is not my custom. I try to stick to the basics so that way you guys all have them by default. You know, the only one that I do have is this one from Pablo. So he sells a ZBrush guides. He sells a pack that you guys can download. The only one I like using is this one. There's a lot of other tools. I just don't have time to use them all. Do snapping turtles have teeth? No, they don't. But we're just adding this to make them even creepier. You know, maybe they're kind of broken. Maybe they're really small. Maybe they're just. Yeah, that's a good thing too, to have them. Let's see, have them have offsets too, so that they don't all feel perfect. If you look at this guy, this is where we could break a little symmetry in. No, I don't think they do, but this is just something that we're playing around with. Also, they're all separate pieces, so we can see if we even like that idea, and that idea might not go anywhere, but we'll see. Let's see. It is easy, Walter. You just have to, you know, like just do it every day. The more practice you get, the easier it gets. So if you wanted to modify, let's save this as we're probably 30 minutes in. Let me just save this real quick so that we don't lose anything. We continue. So if you wanted to move everything at the same time, you can go to where is it at? The transpose, and that will kind of combine everything temporarily. You can move everything at the same time and then go back to T-pose, and then it will bake all those things, separate them back out, and put them in that new position. I usually do that with a layer, so that way if you break something, you could just delete that layer and it goes back to what you had. That's one way of doing it. So we could probably do that a little later. Let's mess with these ears. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, I think the bigger issue that I think I see a lot of people have is, and I used to have that as well, is that you concentrate on one thing too much, right? And the problem with that is that you don't see the bigger picture at you know, that's gonna be happening later. And I think that's one of the issues, that sometimes you get stuck blocking this stuff in, and you know, doing all this work, and then you see the bigger picture and nothing seems to kind of work together the way it should, design wise. So that's why I try to keep everything loose. You know, even now, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that could be improved, little anomalies that can be fixed. You know, like I guess turtles also have maybe a ridge on the front. But we're working we're working to trying to make this as complete picture as we can, right? So that we can see what's going on, what's working, what's not. So we can see that way in the early stages before we commit to everything, and then we spend up a week or 2 weeks, and then it goes nowhere. Yeah, I actually have worn it many places in some of my other masks that I've been wearing. So I put my regular N95 mask and I put that on top, and people are always asking me like, "Where'd you get that?" I'm like, "I just made it myself." They asked me to buy it, but I really haven't made any copies for it. I made 1 or 2 copies, and that's about it. But yeah, I do wear them. It just sometimes depends on convenience, like what's going on, what do I have to do that day if I need to kind of wear them out and remember that I have it on. Sometimes I forget, and then people will be asking me questions, and I don't understand what they're talking about until I remember that I have the mask on. Yeah, so this allows me to move topological is another. So I use move a lot. I use move topological a lot when I'm doing at this stage, because it's easier for me to just tweak things. I could go here and mask and unmask and then do all that, which as you guys see me, I have done that. But sometimes it's easier for me to just go in here and just tweak it. So one thing that happens too is if your brush becomes so small, you see it moves everything. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. So that's when you want to switch to 1 here, because I want it to get just down to this caruncle area, and it's kind of hard to do that when the whole thing moves. See, so I look at this also with different shaders and try to see what's working, what's not. Like a lot, even these brush strokes tend to smooth them out and move along. Let's work on that neck, because it needs to have some kind of neck. And just block it out real quick. So clay tubes and clay seem to work pretty well. From when you're blocking things out, like roughly, like if you don't care what's underneath there, like I don't care at the moment, because I'm, all this stuff is just rough. So this kind of works for me. It's funny, it kind of looks like an eagle. So one thing I want to remember is that this part is going to be kind of a dish of some sort. So we probably want to make a little ridge here, which we can tweak later to remind us that that's going to be the bowl section. Yeah, if you guys haven't looked up much on these guys, you guys can look up the Kappa creature and their legend and all that stuff, and it's pretty creepy. Yeah, so there's different ones. There's this one too. I kind of like this one. This one's more like the shaman type of look, and that helps me. All of them help me see things in a different way. So I like them all. Obviously, then we can start tweaking the neck and the integration. One thing too is that we have to remember that probably has a lot of saggy skin underneath there. So I like clay because it just destroys everything, and you see I can start adding things easier and then smoothing it out. And that feels more like where before we had, if you go back, see there was nothing there connecting that jaw, and now it's more connected. Oh, awesome, guys. Thanks. Yeah, Evil Ninja Turtle. Sí, el bicho está guapo, ¿no? So here's maybe where I want to do some of these. So a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, sometimes I don't mask, but if you want to understand what I'm doing, I'm kind of adding those old man ridges here, like your tendons that start to sag. I figure this guy's probably been here for a couple hundred years, so he's not a young character. They live underwater. So let's see. And sometimes I'm too harsh, so I just blend it in, you know, and we're sketching right now, so it's okay to do some of this, and then from there kind of redefine some of those wrinkles we had from before. You know, think about where they're connecting, where they're coming from, like the back of the neck, it's all coming down, so you can't just make wrinkles for no reason. So that's what I'm constantly thinking about, like where all these wrinkles are kind of coming from. So I don't know, I think he kind of needs his hair. We might thin it out a lot, but I think his hair is much neat, you know. We'll thin it more than that because I feel like that's, it's like he just went to the salon, right? Which obviously if you're a monster, you probably won't be doing that much. How can you start with ZBrush? Just open up and make a sphere and start pushing points and moving points around. I would suggest watching a lot of YouTube, a lot of these, you know, like the streams we do now, like the one I'm doing now, and that will kind of help you see, like, oh, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? I try to explain my process so that you kind of know what I'm thinking about, as opposed to just doing it and then you like don't understand why. So here I'm just trying to make more strands so that it looks more, I guess, a bigger breakup. So let's. Obviously his hair, obviously it's probably not coming from his neck part, so we're also going to be tweaking that. The way I'm looking at this guy, I'm imagining kind of Nicolas Cage hair from like, what is that name of the movie? I know, what does Nicolas Cage have to do with this, right? But I'm thinking about like Con Air, like the way his Elvis hair he had, like what would that look like on like one of these guys? You know, like it's all like slimy and like stuck together and like, you know, sweaty and stuff. You know, you have these strands of just. We'll also play around with his proportions. So yeah, this will eventually be more sunken in. I just kind of don't want to do it yet. I want to see the whole thing. I want to say the ZBrush one, man, for sure. Yeah, I know, right? Nicolas Cage. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about, like him with some attitude like that. So I guess the other thing that I'm not 100% sure, that I don't know what I want to do with, is see, also, I guess let me talk about this. So this is all made of simple spheres. They were all spheres at one time. And this is kind of the body that I just blocked out. Nothing special. Simple geometry, simple anatomy. Nothing too crazy. But this allows me to kind of overall see like what's going on with the proportions, you know? Like, sure, we worked on the face. It looks much nicer. I kind of want to play around with his limbs and make his limbs much longer. Like skinny, but longer. Yeah, Larry King. Billy Crystal, yeah. Which tools did I just used the sphere and I just pulled basically for the hair. I have the snake hook, and all I did was just kind of make the brush smaller and just kind of pull things out just like that. And of course they look ugly, and then from there you just refine them a little more. Like if I want another strand of hair, you know, there you go. That's another strand of hair, right? It's actually pretty cool, so let's keep it. So here's where we could go to topology. Or let's redynamesh it so we get a little more resolution. So the reason I redynameshed it, in case you guys don't know, when I pulled it out, you see how it doesn't have all that resolution here? And if I wanted to curl it, it would just become like a wall that I'm curling. It wouldn't be like I can't do any curvature because there's not enough resolution. So by adding Dynamesh, now I have all this resolution to play around with. So now I can play around with this a little bit more, if that makes any sense. You know, just get it off his shoulders. Now he looks more creepy, right? Super creepy guy. Let's see. Good morning. Hey, what's up, Hannibal? How's it going, bro? Yeah, the main thing is just not do any detail, right? Like none of this stuff is detailed. As you can tell, like none of this has a lot of resolution. The more closer you get, the more it falls apart. But we're trying to see the big picture. Then we could go and refine whatever we need to refine. So let's switch to the body. Let's turn his hair back on so we can see it. I don't know what happened to his hair. Or oh, there it is. So we could tweak some of these groups, and because I kept, so the trick to this is to, when you dynamesh, you group it, you keep groups on, because if you don't, I'll show you what happens. So right now, if I wanted to dynamesh, and let's put a little more resolution, I get a little more resolution when I dynamesh. There we go. Sorry. You know, that's obviously maybe a little too much for what I want to do, since I'm just tweaking primary proportions. But every group was separate, right? It was still separate nicely. So let's do that again. Everything is still separated. It still hasn't become one mesh, right? So the difference is, let me undo that. So you can see it looks like this, right? And let's duplicate this guy and move forward so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So here's the same body. And if I were to turn off this group option and then dynamesh now, see everything now is one piece. It keeps the points, but now you see now everything it becomes one. It's no longer separate. And this is good for the end, but not for now, because I still want to tweak some muscles and maybe want to tweak the rib cage or something. It's easy for me to kind of move stuff around. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. So this is awesome for later, because then if I wanted to kind of blend some of these muscles in, because then maybe they became, like, obviously he's not he has skin on top, so if I wanted to start playing around with this stuff and blending in like where the pecs should go and all this stuff kind of goes, I get to keep my proportions and keep to, you know, like, obviously I didn't fill that gap in, but everything could be blendable, you know, just by smoothing it. And then you start, you know, if you want to reveal some more muscles, then you still have those groups, so you can still push those out. But at this point, I don't do that because I'm still tweaking stuff. But yeah, that's one. Just remember to keep groups on. Yeah, I used to keep every single subtool separate for the body, and that used to be a pain because I had to switch, you know, alt click and then move it. And I found this way to do the groups, and it kept all the poly groups, and I could still dynamesh it if I needed more resolution. Like right now, it's okay because I'm just going to stretch this stuff out. But once I need some more resolution, I could just easily add it. Let's see. Yeah, it's really good for making robots and that type of stuff, or this anatomy or this basic blockings, because then you could keep everything separate, and then if you don't like a group, you can always delete it before you fuse it together. Oh, right, from the general, yeah, kind of like one of those goblin characters, right? Yeah, so you keep them all separate, bro. It's awesome. And it's nice because then if I were to use like a tool, like one of these brushes, like the insert, where is it? Like this insert primitives, and I just insert like another object, I could just keep it, you know, and it stays a separate piece. So even if I dynamesh it, like now it's part of it, right? It's all one group or all one mesh. See? So even if I'm shoving this guy in there, well, so do that. Let's shove this guy in there real quick. And then I wanted more resolution. Oh, let me turn this on so you guys can see. If I wanted more resolution, if I had these the group on, turn it on. It's still a separate piece. It's not fused together. So you can still select that guy and see the whole thing is still there, which is pretty awesome. So I mostly do that just for this blocking stage. Eventually I'll get rid of it. It just for now, like you saw in the face, I'm using that in the face as well. Not for a lot, you know. Sometimes I like turning this off, the wire, so you can see the polyframes. And you can see like the ears are separate, the eyelids are separate, you know, but they're all in one mesh. Yeah, man, it's an amazing tool. I used to keep them all separate, and it just makes it so hard to adjust. $19.72. What's the best channel? I would say just the Pixologic channel is really good, but anything you could look up on YouTube, you probably find some good stuff. Flip Normals has some good stuff. Noman has some good stuff. Basically, anywhere you go, you'll be able to get started. But yeah, that's one way. It's nice. Sometimes you don't want to see the wire, but you know, it's cool too. So let's adjust these proportions a little bit, because I kind of what I found this some images from one of my favorite artists, like Simon Lee, and I want to stretch these proportions out a little bit more, you know, like these are pretty cool, but I want to keep him real skinny, and he's still short, but just more, I guess, more in the slender side. Oh, thanks, appreciate it. But yeah, we also want to maybe change the pose on this guy. But yeah, I'm not sure about the ears. We'll see. Looking at this, it feels like he needs more fluff. And also we have to look at what we're going to do with that turtle shot, right? Like how are we going to implement that? Because I've been looking at some of these other turtles. Let's see. Kind of looking at some of these guys. Of course, these guys are too fat for kind of what I want, but it's a good indicator of like where things should go. It's also looking at this one for like the bottom of the turtles, you know. Of course, these are different types of turtles, so, but I kind of like the fleshy to hard edge stuff. It seems cool. And it also probably makes them more flexible, so you can bend over and grab stuff. If not, he probably wouldn't be able to. Hey, how's it going? Pedro from Barcelona. Glad to have you here. Let's see. What's the best workflow for hollowing a mask? Usually what I tend to do, you could probably do, let's save this real quick, and then we can try some stuff here so you guys can see the hollowness of how this all works out. So let's say you have a mask, right? You carved a mask out of this guy's face, right? So we're gonna do it out of his face, so that way let's hide everything else. So usually if you just hold shift and click on that, that gets rid of, it turns everything else off. So let's duplicate this guy. And shrink them a little bit, right? Let's say we're just doing the mask, right? So let's just tweak this real quick, and then add live Boolean. We're gonna Boolean this guy out of that guy. So that gives you like the super quick version of that, right? Obviously you want to tweak some of this stuff so it's going in. And the nice thing about this is that you can do it on the fly. Of course, let me switch tools, and you see now I'm kind of pushing all the stuff in so that it's not, so it's a hollow mask. And another thing you can do, which is pretty awesome about ZBrush, one of my favorite things to do. Let's move this guy up, move him down 1 or 2 steps. Put that on Boolean mode too. Is that you can see the thickness now too. So if you wanted to adjust it to be thicker or thinner in certain areas, you can do that. And you can see if I animate this guy, you kind of see where it's thick, where it's thin. I tend to export this stuff out to Mesh Mixer and just kind of do a hollow, because I could do it by numbers and be like, I want it to be 4 millimeters or 10 millimeters or whatever it is, and see it. But you could do it this way and quickly visualize where your thickness of your mask is. That's the easiest way to visualize it and see it. But But obviously you could also just keep it and just deflate everything at the same time. So that's another workflow. So we went back to this guy, and let's see when he was matching. So I think right there he's matching. So let's see if we use deformations and then inflate negatively. But also I think we need to turn on, no, it's, so I think what I did is since, let's see, let's look at that. I broke it. So let's deflate this guy just a tiny bit. Let's go back to deformations, and obviously I was doing it way too much, so sometimes you just have to do it just a tiny bit. So now there's overall thickness on the whole thing. So that's another uniform way to do it. So there's many ways, which is amazing, but this is a few ways you can do it. And then from there, if you want to tweak it furthermore, what I would suggest, if you're trying to just make a shell, I would get rid of all the detail and then shrink it so that there's no inner penetration. But you could definitely do it. And you could do that on the fly too. So if I continue here, you guys can see it grow, but obviously it starts to, you know, kind of break apart. So you can only push this method so far. That's another way. So many ways to do it. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of our Boolean. Let's continue on everything else. So now if you want to turn everything on, you could just click on shift and the eyeball, and everything turns back on. Even our other little, so this guy I started with, I was thinking of starting with Z spheres, but then I changed my mind and decided not to. That's why this guy's doing here. But that's another way you can create another body too. Yeah, anytime you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here to help you guys. So let's see. I guess let me save this again and let's try the posing. I know some of you guys were asking about posing and how you can pose this stuff. We can cover that pretty quickly. We still have plenty of time anyway, so it should be good. Yeah, do I ever work on HG geometry? Yes. It's a tricky workflow, right? Because you can only subdivide your current mesh to a certain amount, like 1 or 2 million. Not really. You could do it more, but I would not recommend it. And then from there, so that's subdividing like, let's say maybe 3 times. But then from there, you could subdivide through four more times in HG and get to like 100 million or more or whatever, you know, and then have all that detail. But you just have to be careful because it could get pretty slow. Or also, like, if you subdivide and you want to work on more, sometimes you can only subdivide like the face. I think I have my alien character. We can look at that HD. Let's just do the posing real quick so you guys can see that, and then we can try that. So let's say we have all this stuff, right, and everything's separate. And right now, if I wanted to pose something, it poses the whole thing, right? It moves the whole thing, and I only have groups to deal with. So let's separate this Z plugins up. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Z plugins out. Let's create a layer, and let's go to T-pose, right? So what that's going to do is low res everything as much as it can if I had subdivision levels. So now I did that, and it saves that to temporary memory. No, estoy pensando hacerlos en español, pero no sé si hay suficiente gente que le guste en español. So here now everything's combined, right? So if you look at the subtools, it becomes one subtool, but just temporarily while you pose it, right? So now I can go ahead and mask things around, you know, and since it keeps all the polygroups, of course, maybe I should have, yeah, you could just mask this, right? And then just use your lasso tool to kind of mask what you want, and then soften the mask, review everything, and invert it, you know. Oh, actually, let's do it this way. Right, so now, sorry, this just got a little tricky. Just trying to. So let's say you have that, and then you don't want mask. Right, and then you have the hair, and you don't want to mask that because you don't want to move the hair. So now the arm's the only thing that's masked. So now you can start posing this, changing the pivot for all this stuff. You know, and then mask somewhere else. Or actually, let's move the arm out a little bit. Of course, you have to remember where your pivot points are for your body, so you can adjust them from there. But not a big deal, right? Go and mask this stuff. Change the pivot. So you could hold Alt and move the pivot around. You know, some stuff will break. Not a big deal, but you can use your move topological. Kind of tweak some of this stuff, you know, maybe some of the stuff that broke. Right, so you're moving the arm. Let's say we want to move the head. Want to bring all those teeth along. So let's mask all this stuff. So now we can move this. Let's move to somewhere that makes sense, somewhere like in the neck part, right? Now you can rotate. Oh. Let's change this. So if you ever get into a problem where like your pivot or your thing is like not oriented to your model, you could hold Alt and then click on the rotation. That would reset it. So let's say you want him to be looking up a little bit, and so now he's kind of posed, right? You can also like, maybe let's pose the bottom part of the body. Yep. So the turtle shell is so rigid, you don't want that to be kind of spinning. So let's move that. So also you could click Alt and it will change the pivot for you. So let's say he has his legs pointing the other way. Then from here you could, that's the power of the move topological. You see you can move things and tweak things that are not working. So let's say that's kind of a pose, right? And we're overall happy with it. Let's go here, let's go back to our transpose, and then you go back to T-pose. And what that's going to do is transform every single tool you have and kind of move it into position like you're seeing now. And sometimes something like this breaks, not a big deal. Looks like the eyes broke. But it's only one eye that broke. But now everything's back to being all split the way you had it. So that's why it's important to also name all this stuff, so sometimes it doesn't get all wanky like the eye did. But you know, if something like that happens where you have one thing that breaks, it's not a big deal, right? You could always move the eyeball back. You're gonna go to the eyeball group, you know, and let's see, why isn't that? There you go. So for some reason the eyeballs broke. For some reason one eyeball broke. You can always just move it yourself afterwards. Oh, looks like I have double eyeballs in there, so that's probably the issue. You can move it and then that should be good. Right, so that's one thing. So let's say you don't like the way the head was, right? And because we created layers, everything is in the layer. Well, let's see, let's move on the head. Everything has a layer, so you can always go back and tweak it, or if you just, let's say you only want it halfways, you can always go back and tweak it halfways. But you have to do that for every single piece. That everything has a layer, so just remember, like, you like it at 0.71, go change all the other layers so that everything follows along. I would tend to treat it kind of like the move the anatomy around, and I would adjust all the armor separately, because you don't want to kind of like deform it in a weird way. You want to move it as a unit because it's obviously a hard surface. So I think that's one way to kind of treat it, like I was treating like the hard shell. Like I didn't want it to deform like the rest of the body. But then from there you can continue, and you know, it's all good. I just kind of like, hopefully that helps you guys understand like what I was talking about. I'm just gonna open my old file so that doesn't have any layers or any posing. But yeah, that's hopefully that helped you guys. Let's see. Ah, gracias. Hey, from Egypt. Nice. That's awesome. It depends what kind of workflow. I tend to switch between Z-spheres and just regular spheres and moving things around, keeping everything separate. That's what I would recommend, but that's just my way of kind of the way I like doing things. And there's many ways. Yeah, that's why we do this, man, to help you hopefully get inspired, and then you do some cool stuff and inspire everybody else. Let's see. Yeah, it's always a struggle. I still struggle with this stuff, you know. So if I'm still struggling, the struggle will probably never stop. But I'm sure there's other artists that make it look like it's like they're breathing, right? It just happens. The magic just happens. Not so much for me either. Yeah, I still have to play around with this stuff. Sorry, I'm just reading all comments. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. If there's anything, let's see. Somebody posted something about oh, they're talking about armor. Okay, I wasn't sure what they're talking about. But yeah, I think if you treat it separately, like if you move it, transpose it yourself, and kind of move it yourself, and do this type of stuff. Sorry, this has symmetry on. If you kind of pose it, and once you have it nice and done, you could, you know, kind of just pose that stuff, and that should work as well. Yeah, you can use a mannequin. A mannequin works too, or you can make you can also make a Z-sphere rig and pose it. But the thing with the Z-sphere rig is that it's a one-time use, kind of like what I just did with the layers. So you will have to repose it as well. Like if you change the pose, you have to adjust that to follow that pose, because it won't follow it afterwards. But that's another way to do it. Yeah, there's many ways. That's the nice thing about this stuff. That it's not all one way. But let's change some of these proportions on this guy. Also, let's maybe make a hand real quick, or better yet, sometimes you could just insert one from a human body that already exists. So there's this hand. So we could just kind of sometimes we don't have to do everything from scratch, guys. We would like to, but sometimes, you know, I'm just blocking this stuff in, so we don't really know. I could imagine him having really long fingers like that. Or really long, like, yeah, creepy stuff. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so you see this, I want to adjust his proportion. Now that we can kind of see, well, maybe let's put a foot in there too. Why not, right? The nice thing about this stuff is that if you just insert it, and we're going to remove it later and keep it all separate polygroups, we're just using this to visualize, like, what are some of the potentials, right? And I imagine this guy having probably like really big feet, like paddles, because he has to swim. So I'm just making his feet a little bit more in that. This, I'm not sure, it probably doesn't have that many. Oh. So maybe some kind of duck foot or something, I don't know. But let's say that's kind of his overall proportions, right? Now we're seeing the whole picture. Now we can see, okay, his torso is like really short. What can we do about that to make him look still menacing, but not so short, you know? So the nice thing is we can select a lot of these polygroups, kind of mask this area out, invert it, and then we can start tweaking either with the move tool and tweak everything. You know, bring his little body a little lower. Because we just want him to have long legs, right? But we just want his overall. And we also maybe want him to grow. Because he has a giant head, right? And he has a giant turtle shell, so he needs to be a little stronger to be able to carry all that weight. So maybe he's more like a little hunchback character. Maybe his legs need to be a little stronger. So here's kind of what I'm tweaking, right? I'm kind of adjusting some things. Need to bring his chest back up. And adjust this turtle. Let's see, what is this? Yeah, his like kind of, I imagine this being like a little cover for his crotch, and you know, bring that lower. So you could either use the whole tool to bring it all lower, or if you want to just tweak it, you can as well. In that case, his turtle shell maybe needs to be a little longer, you know. Maybe a little bigger too. Let's see what else. Let's see what other references we have. We also probably want to look up some references for the turtle shells. So I don't think I really have any turtle shell reference for snapping turtle. So let me do that real quick. So we can also see how much of the body they cover. Let's see, images. So they're actually more squared off than what I thought. There actually seem to be more of this type of shape. So we'll probably tweak that and give them a little bit of the neck part, you know. You can also see he needs a little tail. That could be cool. But maybe this is the kind of shell he's gonna have, not so much of that smooth one. Yeah, the Kappa. Yeah, man. Yeah, I looked them up a little bit ago, probably almost a year ago, and I just forgot about this project that I had, but I thought it might be a good idea to kind of bring them up and show them to you guys and see what's going on. So let's use this as our inspiration to adjust the back. Yeah, he kind of is like a Bowser looking character, right? So instead of this part, so what I did is I separated the inside. So if you guys can see, this is more like I guess what I would call the webbing of how his body would be fused to this thing, like a real turtle would be. So I'm keeping that separate for now because I want to figure out where I want to taper that in, or how is that tapered in, you know. But that's kind of like the part you guys just saw, this part. But here, let's adjust that, make it more square. So one thing that I like doing too is using this other move tool. Because that moves everything underneath it, not just what I'm seeing. If that makes any sense. Because what I'm seeing is like with the regular move tool, it's only moving like the front end. So if I move this, if I go to the front, the front got moved as well. Right? But if I were to do that again with just the regular move tool, see, like this edge stayed inside. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. So it really depends on kind of what are you going for. But in this case, I kind of want the front to be moved as well, so I'm kind of playing with that. So let's see, it looks like this would probably go deeper. I guess that gives him room for him to be able to move his head back as well. So that's a nice thing. I don't know what that is. Something that was masked that I never unmasked. Not a big deal. Alright, so we also have to see from the side, right? So now we squared it off a little bit nicer, kind of like a real turtle would be. It looks like there's a nice ridge, which we kind of had there before, but let's tweak that a little bit. So even from the back, this would be way smaller. So this one we want to make our brush way bigger. So that's a different piece of geometry. Let's see any questions so far. Just want to make sure we're answering all your questions. Yeah, I could do an armadillo too, and yeah, anteater. That could be cool. How would I delete the fingers? Like the overall fingers or just that whole hand? So let's say I want him to only have 2 fingers, right? So let's separate that. Right now it's still together. So let's mask this. And let's get rid of those fingers, right? So I have this guy. So now they're hidden, right? And then I have delete hidden. So now if I Dynamesh, of course have groups on, right? If I were to Dynamesh, now they're gone. But I want this to be a little lower, so let's keep. I think that was like at 256. So that way it doesn't get too dense. So let's do that again. Nah, still too high. Let's go a little lower. Let's do 128. Yeah, that's not too bad. But you see, they're gone now, so you can do that, and now you continue to work. But for now, I'm keeping them since I'm going to redo the hand. I just kind of want to see it as a visual thing, so we can see the whole thing together, you know. But let's continue on the back. That help? For me, all the hard surface stuff that I do, I tend to just do it in Maya. It's much easier for me since I've been using Maya from the beginning. But you could do it here. I've seen a lot of people do it. Okay, awesome, Walter. Yeah, you could Dynamesh them all together and make the web fingers, and then from there kind of extract them. Yeah, he will have like a more web fingers and long fingers. It's just right now we're just still designing and adjusting major proportions, but I feel like he's heading in the right direction. But now that we did that, we need to adjust this inside volume, because now it's kind of starting to stick out too much. So I imagine that kind of being webbed all through his neck and his or his back. But we haven't put too much love into this turtle shell, so let's just give it a little bit more love. You know, let's figure out at least a little bit of a structure. Just kind of using that image that I found for reference and kind of trying to figure out what to do with that. Just a sketch, nothing crazy. And it looks like they have little ridges, so we'll work on those guys too. There's some kind of spiky pattern, but for now we're just gonna kind of sketch in there from there, just, you know, just enough to give it something. That makes any sense. See, just enough to kind of make him feel, so it doesn't feel like a sphere. Know what I mean? Also make it a little less wide. Want to keep that square shape, but I also want to give him a little tail. I forgot about the little tail. Let's see. Yeah, clipping brush and all that type of stuff. Yeah, that will help for all the horns. My polygon density, well, right now this whole thing is 1 million, right? Like 1.085. But I'm trying to keep everything as low as possible. That's kind of what you were asking, or? So I think that's kind of his rib cage. So I need to tweak that a little bit. I wanted to make his arms longer too, because I don't feel like they're long enough. So let's tweak this. So always make sure you soften your brush so that when you tweak something, there we go, then we'll push his shoulders just a little bit longer, but I think overall that's kind of what we're doing. Yeah, I like using this transform. Sometimes I switch to the old school one. It all depends what I'm doing. Right. So maybe let's see. Let's look at some of our reference. What can we do to make his? We need to probably make his lower legs longer, I think, so that it feels more creepy. Yeah, I think that's the call. Let's try that. We can do the same with this. Just select what we currently have. Mask the stuff we don't want to touch. Oh, I forgot one. I guess that guy's part of. That guy needs to get just masked a little bit. Soften the mask. Then from there we can make his legs a little longer overall. I don't tend to use auto masking too much. I kind of don't like it. Sometimes it selects things I don't want. Yeah, I want him to be lanky, so I need to kind of maybe tweak some of these proportions. Maybe just tweak more from like... And from there on, maybe this is much better. Sometimes you could just make tweaks like this. They're much easier. There you go, that feels more lanky. I think maybe that turtle shell part could be lower. There we go, that makes him feel a little more lanky. This is just like his crotch protector, I think. Could also maybe move that turtle shell a little back so he can actually move around. And we can add that little tail, because right now he doesn't have that little tail. Hopefully it's not too boring for you guys, the making of this little creature. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. If you guys have any questions, feel free to keep asking. Maybe a little wider legs on the top. It needs to support that giant turtle shell, so yeah. Sorry guys. Let's see. Yeah, maybe need to look at some toads too. I don't know. At this point, I was just thinking of 3D printing, like a sculpture, but he could be set for animation as well. So, if I wanted to do that, I would have to retopologize him. Like once I feel pretty happy with his design overall, kind of tweak him a bit. But yeah, that's totally possible. So I was talking about making these guys a little bit more pronounced. Sometimes some of these things get in the way, so you just need to kind of hide them, give him a little more volume in the front. A little bit more legs. And also some of this stuff shifts around, so you can just tweak. There we go, that's much better. What else can we do? Fix some of this hair. I guess maybe let's try see if we can put the hair behind the ear. See how that looks. See, what do you guys think so far? Some type of witch monster, yeah. Yeah, if you have any pictures, send them my way. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, he could have a little staff. Maybe he could be like the elder version of the Kappa, right? So I'm also looking at some of this design, right? Like what's happening here. It's important to see the silhouette because sometimes you know, you get it's not bad. I think it's kind of working out. Let's try to change the shader. See. I wonder what kind of tongue he would have. He should have a tongue. Let's give him a little tongue. Yeah, as you can see, I just kind of append a new sphere in, and then just always just overall scale it down, and then from there start shaping it to whatever. And that's kind of the way I started this whole thing. I guess we could work a little more on his kind of want some strands kind of coming forward, so maybe we'll add a few more strands. Or we can do is also duplicate this. Let's see, what time is it? Oh yeah, we have a few minutes. That's not bad. So we duplicate this, right? So now we have this hair strand, so we can separate. We can mask, let's say, the one we like, one of these hair strands. That's going to be the hair strand we want. So we just deleted that. Let's dynamesh it. That makes it a full solid object. So right now we also want to get rid of that, so we can hide that. Oh, be hidden. Close those guys. So now that we have these guys separate, now we can kind of play around with them a little more. And if you get some issues like this, you can always just kind of inflate a little bit and then dynamesh again. That kind of takes care of a lot of that stuff. We could restrand it again. You could post links here. You could put them in your Dropbox and then send me a link, or send them through my Instagram. That's another way. Send me a private message. Yeah, he has like a pimp haircut, you know, like. So we'll add some strands on here. So that gives him a little bit more funny haircut. Right. Let's see, what else can we do? I think I want to play around with the nose and see if we can maybe move it forward. See, because I like the feeling of this nose forward, but we'll see. We'll maybe start giving him some spikes too. I kind of want to add some spikes. So maybe let's play around with that. Alright, now that we saved them, we can keep moving with this. So we want to adjust some of this stuff too. Give them a little more structure. Round some of this stuff off too. So sometimes when you're doing the inflate, sometimes it doesn't work as nice as you probably would like. So one thing I like using is also just clay, and then from there kind of inflating those pieces over, because then that kind of breaks the break. You know, like if it's trying to clip through the through itself, it kind of doesn't do it anymore. So let's continue a little bit more structure. So one thing I noticed is that these turtles have like a strong ridge, right? So I'm trying to just give them a little bit more of that. Let's see. His mouth, his lower lip could be bigger. So if you think of this just like a lot of leftover skin, this is kind of what I'm thinking about. Going with that curvature, kind of breaking those lines that I made that were straight. Also maybe giving the volume, a little more volume at the bottom. I guess he has two sets of eyes, so let's get rid of one of those guys. I don't know why he has two sets of eyes. I think this might be the bad one. Yeah, that's the bad one. So sometimes I'll block things in with this, and I also have a, let's see, a duplicate for the caruncle. Make that smaller. Right. It's like symmetry is not perfect, but it's okay. And we can also fit this lid around the eyeball, since I guess the other eyeball was the wrong eyeball. You know, make sure there's enough lid to go around. You could define the top lid too, because there's not much definition there. So I'm just kind of looking to get the shelf fine. More like that. So now we know we maybe need to make it stick out a little bit more from the bottom. Make it go back in. See any questions? Okay, looks like we're good. So let's just give this guys a little bit of a volume too. So what we think we can do now is erase the other nose and put a new one in. So we could play around with that. So what we could do is duplicate the head. Get rid of the old nose. Shift the nose up to the front. And then we can compare back and forth right now. See if that works better or if it doesn't. That's kind of what we had for the old one. Let's see what the new one looks like. It's a hard call. What do you guys think? Honestly, the new one works a little better. It kind of keeps that turtle feeling going. Or like the structure feels like it continues much nicer. So I think we're gonna go with the new one. So a little more resolution to this guy. Yeah, we need to break this up. I don't like the way that's going. We'll restructure this stuff eventually. Any other questions, guys? Well, I'd say maybe smaller ears. Maybe somewhere in between. So what I would do is like treat this like a scan or like a mesh that's just you know, a trash mesh, and then go into Maya and retopologize it or run ZBrush. So like let's say you're pretty happy with this, right? So let's duplicate that guy. Let's get rid of the old one so we don't keep that around. So let's duplicate this guy. Hire original. So right now the topology is all messed up, right? Like it's not animation friendly at all, and everything's still separate. So what we could do now is turn off the dynamite, turn off the grouping. So now everything becomes one mesh, right? Now everything is one nice mesh, as you can see there. So now what we can do, if you wanted to have a nicer mesh than this, either you could do by hand, or you could do a ZBrush. So you'll see right now what the differences are. And then we could reproject all the details so that we have a low resolution animation friendly mesh, and project all the, you know, of course this is just primary and secondary details. The rest would be actual like all the details that the turtle would have and spikes and all that. So you see this gave me a much cleaner mesh. So you see now this mesh is a little more friendly. It has some decent edge loops so you can start animating if you need to. I will do it by hand because I don't like sometimes the way this does it, but if you don't have time and the budget, this is one way to do it. And then from there you just kind of, you have both of them on, so you turn the other one on, and then you subdivide this guy and do project. So what you're doing now is like you're projecting all those details from one mesh to the other, while having the ability to go up and down in subdivisions with this new mesh. Let's see, yeah. So let's say it's not always the cleanest. That's why I don't like doing it this way, but overall it's fine. So let's say now you have this mesh, but you have subdivision levels. Now you can go ahead and pose it and animate, you know, animate it much nicer. Hopefully that makes sense. I think on my stream I could probably retopologize some of this stuff so you guys can see how I do it in Maya, because it's much easier for me to do that there. Let's see. Yeah, well, I didn't change them yet, right? I didn't make it smaller, but I was playing around with the idea, so I think I want to kind of split the difference. Just maybe make them a little smaller. Just a tiny bit, and maybe make them pointier. The other thing we haven't played around with is the preview AO, right? Not sure if you guys have been using this or not. Oh, wrong one. It's actually this one. So that's with, that's without. So we just want it a little bit. I think it helps. You can see the overall character a little nicer. And it works with all the shaders, which is pretty cool. But I really like my red shader, so I'll keep that on. Let's see, what else can we do? How much time do we have? We only have a few minutes left, so if you guys have any questions, any last minute questions, let's take care of those. But yeah, if you wanna put some more links for some of my Gumroad and all that stuff, so you guys can have you guys can feel free to follow me if you like what you see. Send me some questions on my channel or my YouTube. Any of that type of stuff. Post my Gumroad. Hey Sparks, oh I'm glad this is helpful. This is kind of, you know, just a little different direction of different things we want to do. Maybe let's add some more teeth, maybe some smaller ones. They don't know how to be pointy either, so maybe they could be. He's been chewing on rocks. Let's duplicate that, add some more. And these weren't symmetrical, so that's why they're offset. That's fine. Not everything in life is symmetrical, right? So not a big deal. Look at that, that's awesome, right? I breaking there. Let's find out why. So let's hit that with the inflate. And fix. So sometimes that happens, not a big deal. Oh, thanks, man. Oh, thanks for the pumpkin, right? I want to do more. I want to do a series of them for Halloween, so hopefully by Halloween I have a good set of 6 or something that people can purchase or check out. No, I haven't. Most of the time when I've done snakes, it's been texture maps and displacements. Not haven't done that in years. It's been a while. Nope, I think I duplicated the wrong thing. It's okay. It happens. Just add some more teeth. Where are my teeth? Yeah, what do you think of the way this guy's coming out? You guys digging it? Not so much. I look at it a lot. I'm constantly looking. That's kind of what I'm looking at now. That's kind of why I'm started poking these guys out, because it's starting to feel like round again. So constantly looking at. Yeah, new Ninja Turtles, or if not, a Power Rangers or something, right? Something. So a lot of these turtles kind of have some pattern like this. I'm just kind of playing around with making it a little more rocky and then smoothing some of this stuff out so you don't see the transitions. Just trying to get the overall feel. Yeah, thank you for joining today. Hopefully you guys have learned some stuff and continue to check out these streams from, you know, the amazing artists that are out there that are doing streams for us for Pixologic. Oh, you have to go to your configuration and make sure you store config, and that would save it for next time you restart. Oh, you're welcome, Dosh. Yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. You know, I will see you guys next time. Feel free to send me some messages on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. If you guys have suggestions for anything you guys would like me to cover, or if you have any questions about any workflow stuff, I'm always here to help you guys. So, but awesome, guys. Thanks. I guess this is where we leave off for this week, and then we'll do some more work next time. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, he needs a little bit more protein, right? Alright guys, thanks for joining. I'll see you guys next time. Have a safe day and have a fun day. See you guys.